Okay, good evening, my Rabbi. Another week of Kedusha Shabbos, Shiur on Inyonei Shabbos, and how to be mekabel and observe the Shabbos b'kedusha v'tahara. Tonight's shaila is as follows: a woman who's makpid to light candles early, unfortunately lit candles too early, before Plag hamincha. When she lit the candles, her intent was, of course, to light Shabbos candles. Made a bracha, accepted upon herself Kedusha Shabbos. But it's before the Plag. Does her hadluka count? Does she have to now have someone extinguish the candles? Because she can't, because she was Makabel Shabbos. Or actually, maybe because her Kabbalah Shabbos was so early, the Kabbalah Shabbos doesn't count. The bracha was a bracha of Atala, unfortunately. And she herself could and should extinguish the candles. And when Plag, after Plag comes, then she should light it again and right at the proper time. This is the subject for tonight's halacha. Can Shabbos be niskabel before Plag HaMincha? Can you be mekabel Shabbos on Friday afternoon before the Plag? Now, before we begin, let's just talk practical for a second. When is Plag? Plag is usually an hour and a quarter before the Shkia. So let's talk, for example, this week. Here in New York, Kadlakas Neiris, I believe, is 4:10, because the Shkia is 4:28. In the Shah Zmaniyos, that means that Plag is at 3:30 in the afternoon. From 3:30 and on, it's potentially shaykh. You can, after Plag, you can daven Ma'ariv, and after you can daven Mincha before Plag, 3:15. You can daven Ma'ariv at 3:30. And you can then have candles lit after 3:30. Why is it 3:30? So let's explain. On Erev Shabbos, on Friday, sunrise is approximately 7 o'clock. I'm rounding it off. Sunset, we'll say approximately is 4:30. How many hours of sunshine is there on Friday? If from 7 o'clock till 4:30, that should be Teisha v'chetzi, 9.5. 9.5 is how many minutes? 9.5 hours. Well, 9 times 60, 540, plus another 30 minutes is 570. Anybody got a calculator? 570 divided by 12. 570 divided by 12 is how many minutes? About 47 or 48. Right?
47 minutes per hour.
47 minutes per sha'os zmaniyos. That's correct. That's all right. Those are the halachic hours. On a day where the sun goes up at 7 and sets at 7, where it's 12 hours, then you obviously have a 12-hour sha'os zmaniyos. That happens twice a year. In the fall and in the spring. In the summer, the days get longer, and the sha'os zmaniyos grow to bigger than an hour. In the winter, they shrink. And so, in this Erev Shabbos, Be'ezus Hashem, a sha'os zmaniyos is 47 minutes. This is the way you calculate davening in the morning, what's man kriya shema, man tefillah, etc. That's not for now. What's nogeya for us is, so when we say that Plag HaMincha, which is an hour and a quarter, well, an hour and a quarter, if the whole sha'os zmaniyos is 47 minutes, a quarter of that would be about another 12 minutes, right? Plus minus. So therefore, that's what we come up with, 59 minutes for your hour and a quarter. So when the Shkia is 4:28, your Plag HaMincha is a sha'ah v'reva of sha'os zmaniyos, which is 59 minutes. At 3:30, that's your Plag. Our story is that a woman lights candles before 3:30. She lit before 3:30. Did it work? Did it not work? Can you say, well, okay, when after 3:30, you know what? Now it's already lit. So already I've lit it before, and mazah mishana. Or no, by lighting it too early, it doesn't count. And if you made a bracha, it's a bracha levatala, and your Shabbos is not accepted. Or no, since she was Makabel Shabbos and it was already at least Friday afternoon, it was Erev Shabbos, maybe it does work. Let's see what the halacha says about this. And let's see what what you should do in case a woman does make such a mistake. We begin with page 1 on top. We have, I think, 8 different things to discuss today, to look into. Lo yaktem, where Simon Reish Samach Gimel, in Arachaim, it's Hilchas Shabbos, letter Dalid, right? Siv Dalid. Lo yaktim lemaher lahadlikoi be'oid hayom gadol. A person shouldn't light candles, shouldn't light the Shabbos candles too early. Be'oid hayom gadol. Sh'oz eina nikar shemadlikoi l'chavod Shabbos. It's not then clear or indicative that it's the covered Shabbos. V'gam lo ya'acher, and not too close. The source is the Gemara in Shabbos, Tav Chav Gimel. Ishtoi Shel Rabbi Yosef. She used to light very close because she wanted to light almost by Shabbos. Her husband said it's too late, so she started being makdim. Now it said lo yakdim v'lo ya'acher. So if you do want to make it early and be Makabel Shabbos, you're allowed to. Ki kivan shemakabel of Shabbos miyad. If you Makabel Shabbos, it's okay. Here's the line: Ubilvad, on condition Shehei miplag hamincha v'lamala. It has to be after the plag hamincha. Shehu sha'a v'revi koidam halayla, an hour of shoy zmanis and a quarter before the nighttime. So when you do it, you want to be Makabel early, which is taka early. But it's after Plag. That's why sometimes in your shows in the summertime, when you're making early Shabbos, it'll say on the memo, on the shul memo, do not light candles before this and this time. When it's the summertime and the shkia is at sometimes 8:20 or 8:30 in the evening, and you want to daven in the 6 o'clock minyan, and there's mincha, the sign will say, or the note will say, that do not light candles before this time. Why? Because you're lighting before Plag HaMincha. Says the Hago, if the candle was lit while the day was still big, extinguish it. Since you did it early, it was too early, then go ahead and extinguish it and light it again. It doesn't say if you should make a bracha in the Ramah, number 1, and it doesn't say who should extinguish it. Here is Reb Kiva Eger. At the bottom of the page, Hagos Reb Kiva Eger. Haner doilik meba'od yom. It was lit early. Do you see where that is, Rabbi Isai? Great. Hainu. Shahaya doluk le'inyan acher. Rabbi Kiva Eger, and I'm going to let you know, as we get into this, Rabbi Kiva Eger, there's a major machlokes between the Bir Halacha, which is the Chafetz Chaim, and the Mata Ephraim, who argue about explanation of this Rabbi Kiva Eger. Let's see Rabbi Kiva Eger first, and let's see what they say about him. What does Rabbi Kiva Eger say? When the Ramah says you have to extinguish the candles, it's because the candles were lit not l'tzayrech Shabbos. The shehainu doilek le'inyan acher. Stam lit candles in the house. I guess the house was dark, and he turned on the lights, or he turned back then. He lit some candles. Why? So there should be light in the room, but not l'tzayrech Shabbos. Kivan deloy hoya hadloka l'Shabbos. Since this was not l'Shabbos, tzarech lachser v'lechabos. Therefore, you have to now extinguish it. V'lachser v'lahadlika l'tzayrech Shabbos. Therefore, you have an achrayus. In other words, Rabbi Akiva Eiger is explaining, it's not just about having candles lit, it's about having them lit lekavod Shabbos, and this wasn't done. Explains Rabbi Akiva Eiger, however, Im hadlok Shabbos, if it was lit Tzairich Shabbos ela shelig b'yom gadol ein tzarich lechaboisoi. If it was lit Tzairich Shabbos, you don't have to go ahead, and it just was early, you don't have to extinguish it. Ela d'lechatchila layakter kol kam mukdam, you shouldn't go ahead and do it so early. Shei nikah shemadlik lekavod Shabbos. Ava b'diavad shaper dami. Now, so Rabbi Akiva Eiger is explaining that when the Ramah said that candles that were lit needs to be extinguished, that's because they weren't lit for the purpose of Shabbos. But if they were lit for Shabbos, then you don't have to extinguish. The question is, when did you light these candles? After Plag or before Plag? This is Machlokes the Mata Ephraim and the Bir Halacha. Please turn your page and go. We're going to skip for a moment the Bir Halacha. We're going to go straight to the Mata Ephraim. So you need to flip a page, actually, and see the Mata Ephraim. It says number 3 on the top. Let's learn a little bit of the Mata Ephraim on top. Letter Beis. Noihagim Medinas Elu lahadlik bebeis neiris ala shulchan b'yom kippurim. Kederech shemadlikim b'Shabbos. In certain places, there's a minhag to light candles on Yom Kippur, on Erev Yom Kippur, the same way you do on Shabbos. V'yesh mekayim shaloi not lahadlik b'leil Yom Kippurim. Ela yesh lo ner bebayis chayiv lahadlik gam bebayis sheshoicha boy v'mchal b'Shabbos af mekayim echad. It's a question if you should go ahead and light candles on Yom Kippur the way you do on Shabbos in the bedroom. Lamaisa, one of the Isurim of Yom Kippur is the 5 Inuyim, also from Ben Ish Ishtoi. So maybe you should light a candle then. There'd be Ner Dolok in the room. This way it's like a Shmira. That's the subject over here. And then he writes the following. Then he says, Ein lahadlik koydem Plag hamincha. You shouldn't light in letter Dala before Plag hamincha. Shehu sha'av revius koydem alayla lefi cheshbon. You shouldn't go ahead and light it too early. Says the Elef Hamagen at the bottom, Mata Ephraim. Says Ezok Tazoy. Lefi, if you light it too early, sha'az ein anika shemad lekavod Yom Kippurim. Vim hedlika koydem Plag hamincha. Av shekiba lekedushas hayom beferish b'shas hadlaka. Even though she said that she was lighting it for that reason, many of them are the Achrayim say, shetzricha lechaboisei v'ladlika shenis b'ram hadlaka. Many of them say she has to extinguish it. However, Rabbi Akiva Eiger b'chidushav says, b'diavad shaper dami ve'en tzarech lechaboisei. She doesn't have to. Mekomogam k'dei lotzais l'divrei hakol nocha shechavenu al yedei acher. If you want to do it right, let it be extinguished, but not by her. She already lit candles. She kibla Shabbat or Yom Kippur, she kibla. Just the lahadlik shein bezmam kain, and when you light it again, al yedei acher. She doesn't extinguish, she doesn't light. Ubeloi bracha. Why? Because she's not allowed to. Why? Because she lit it for the reason for. But she lit it before 3:30. Doesn't matter. But she had intent to be Makabel Shabbos, and the minig of Kabbalah Shabbos is through Hadlakas Neiris, certainly for a woman. So even though she lit early, and Einochanami, it was too early, but it doesn't mean that the Kabbalah Shabbos didn't take hold. So why are we extinguishing it? Because it's not nicker. Bimashma, that even though she was Makabel Shabbos, but it wasn't, as it said in the halacha, it wasn't Sha'az Einay Nicker Shemadlik L'Toich Shabbos. That means that when Rabbi Akiva Eiger said, according to the Mata Ephraim, that when you lit it, Shaloi L'Tzorech Shabbos, you have to extinguish it again. He was talking about before the Plag, right? But if you lit it after the Plag already, even if you did it Shaloi L'Tzorech Shabbos, according to him, there's no reason to go ahead and extinguish it. You at least lit it in the right time. But if you lit it beforehand, then you extinguish. But that's also because you weren't Mekabel Shabbos. But if she was Mekabel Shabbos, it works. That's what the Mat Ephraim says. But now I'm going to show you a slew of Achronim that disagree with this. Go back to page 2. Back now, let's go to the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Brura. It says there at the bottom, first the Mishnah Brura, Yem Gadol. This is going on what it says in the Ramah, that if she lit too early, you're supposed to extinguish it. He learns that after Plag HaMincha, that means that after 3:30, somebody lit candles, but not for Shabbos. Even though she was not mekabel hadlaka, which means sometimes women will light candles, but they're not accepting Shabbos upon themselves. She's lighting it for Shabbos, but didn't accept Shabbos, which means that the way the Mishnah Brura is explaining the pshat is, even though the minig in Klal Yisrael is to be Mekabel Shabbos through Hadlaka, she doesn't have to be Mekabel Shabbos through Hadlaka. She could light without being Mekabel Shabbos. It's considered good halacha. Even though normally you shouldn't go so early, even though it's after Plag HaMincha, but it's still early, if she did it, it's good. That means that he's learning Pshat. He's about to say that when we're talking about this, that it works, but the evidence is after Plag HaMincha. Says the Be'er Halacha, V'hu mi'ba'oid V'hu mechedush Rabbi Kiva Da'af Shabal derech Echayim, like Kosev came, Mekomach Mistav, Tavak Rabbi Kiva Eger. Now he says like this, I'm going to jump straight ahead. Avolim hidla koidem plaga mincha. L'tzayrech Shabbos. You see where I am? 2 lines on the bottom. Mifurash. But if a woman lit candles, l'tzayrech Shabbos, with a bracha, before 3:30, before the Plag, afilu kibel olav Shabbos ma'oto zman, ein hadlakosoi ma'ilo klum av b'diavad. It's too early, and it was nothing. Shum davar. V'tzorech lechabot, v'lachse v'lahadlik v'levorech. And you have to extinguish it. We have, Rabbi Isai, a huge machlokes between the Mat Ephraim and the Chofetz Chaim in understanding Reb Kiva Eger. Reb Kiva Eger had said, let's go through the steps again. One before. The Ramah had said that when you light early, you have to extinguish it. Says Reb Kiva Eger, why? Because you lit it. He's talking about a case when you lit it Shaloi L'Tzayrech Shabbos. You just lit it Stamazai. Which means Reb Kiva Eger understood that the Ramah would never say you have to extinguish it if you did it L'Tzayrech Shabbos. It's because you didn't do L'Tzayrech Shabbos. When is he talking about? According to the Chafetz Chaim in Bir Halacha and Mishnah Brura, he's talking about when a person did it after the Plag. When he did it after the Plag and he did it Shaloi L'Tzayrech, that's when he said you should extinguish it, but if you did it L'Tzayrech, you shouldn't extinguish it. But before the Plag, it's nothing. Ze shum davar. Your bracha, unfortunately, young lady, was a bracha levatola. You weren't mekabel Shabbos, and you yourself can extinguish it. So according to the Bir Halacha and the Mishnah Brura, you yourself can extinguish it. You don't have to ask somebody else to do it. Lama? Because you can't be mekabel Shabbos before Plag HaMincha. Period. That is the way the Chafetz Chaim in Bir Halacha and in Mishnah Brura explains of Kiva Eger. The Mata Ephraim we saw moments earlier disagreed. He said, if you go back to page number 3 over here, that next page, he said Someone who wasn't yet Mekabel Shabbos. Why? Because her Kabbalah, early as it was, is a Kabbalah. She cannot go ahead and do any malacha. So we have a major machlekes in these achrayim. Let's see how Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Zechrein Levracha, weighed in. Let's go weiter. Excuse me, turn the next page. Lechatchila yesh lahadlik b'ofen shei nicker. We're learning Shmir Shabbos Kilchasei Perek Mem Gimel Halacha Yud Beis. Lechatchila yesh lahadlik b'ofen shei nicker shalaki l'chvavet Shabbos. Lechatchila, you should light it in a way that it's clear for covered Shabbos. V'chein ein lahagdim lahadlik zman koydem zman. You shouldn't do it too early. Ka'azloi nicker shadlo kahi l'chvavet Shabbos. It's not indicated that it's a covered Shabbos. Omnam. Im kibul olavas Shabbos but lokan neris. Ro lahal and siv chav dalit. How you rishoy lahaktim v'lahadlik. If you want to do it early, you can. From till how early? Plag mincha. Dahainu sha'a v'reva zmaniyot lifnei ashkia. Avol lo yadlik v'nei azman hazeh v'gam im yikabel olavas Shabbos but lokazu av b'di'avad lo yotza. Why? The tzorich lechabes es haneiros v'lachzav adlikim bebrocha. You have to go ahead and extinguish it. Make a bracha. Afilu kivam Shabbos bat lokosei harishoyin. Lama? Ki ein bekabolas zu velo klum. So not like the Mata Ephraim, like the Mishnah Berurah. Lo haya shum davar. Right? If you look at the bottom, it says over here, this part, V'shamati megoyin Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Over here on this page, where it says, it's page 7, page mem. Hare zokter shamati divrei hatfu ashar loy muvanim dar poshet adover. The Kabbalah Shabbos tzrich lias davka samuch lelayla. Kabbalah Shabbos cannot be in middle of the day. It has to be. Why? You can go to shaharei efshar lasas as hayoim hakodim leyoim haba. The idea of Kabbalah Shabbos is not just to be Mekabel Shabbos. Once you're Mekabel Shabbos, it's already Yom Hashishi Vayechulu Hashemayim Ba'aretz, and then it becomes Vayechal Elikim V'Yom. It finished off the work, Kol Melachtai, and it's already the Yom Hashvi'i. You can't make Yom Hashishi, Yom Hashvi until the day is close to the end of Yom Hashishi. It has to be close to the end. But if it's still in middle of Yom Hashishi, because the sun is still high up, it's before Plag HaMincha, you can't daven Arvis then. It's still in the middle of Yom Shishi. Shishi ze lo shvi. Friday is Friday, it's not Yom HaShabbos. And therefore, ki efshar lasas hayoim hakodim liyom haba. V'lachein rak me Plag HaMincha. K'moy leinin tfilas Arvis v'sfiras ha'omer v'kriyas ha'megillah. That you can't go ahead and do it early. It has to be only once it's shaykh to the next day. Bidi Avad continues Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. What happens if you did it after Plag HaMincha? And you lit it, but you weren't Mekabel Shabbos at that time. Why? Let's say you have to go to a ofruf or a sheva brachas or bar mitzvah. You have to get into the car. So you want to light your candles, but you don't want to be Mekabel Shabbos. Did you light candles for Shabbos? Yes, you did. Kol shohaisad lokem and Plag HaMincha ve'elach. As long as it's Plag HaMincha ve'eina tzorich lachsev lahadlik. Mekol mokoim amaktem lahadlik neris v'chid la'eli yakbid lahadlik neris gedoylem. Make sure if you're lighting early, you light tall candles. Back then they were lighting wax. Maybe people still do 6-hour ones. Some people light oil. My Rebbetzin is makbid to light on oil. It's a grace Indian. How long does it have to be lit for? Till you come back home. You have to see the candles. And what happens if I'm home? I just want to light early. Shelo ad halayla ad acharei haseuda. It has to be lechatchila lit until the candles should not be extinguishing and you're still in the middle of your Su'udah. The inyan is it should stay lit that whole time. Next page. Oitzer Hadinim, this is from Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, Yalkut Yosef. Mi shahaya bebeisai ner dolik maboid yom kodim zman Plag mincha. If a person had candles lit, afilu hayad liko l'tzayrach Shabbos, afilu kibul as Shabbos bad loka, tzorich lechabes v'lachsav lika b'li bracha. Even if you did it, this is like Reb Shlomo Zalman, like the Mishnah Berurah. Kishkei zman ad loka, you have to relight it again. Why? Kedei shedei had lakosai nikeres shehi l'chvayid Shabbos. Now, v'im, I'm skipping ahead. V'im hidlik aner miplag mincha v'loy birach alad lakosai. If he lit the candles or she lit the candles after plag, but did not make a bracha, but gam lekibul Shabbos yechabu. So if you lit candles, but you didn't make a bracha and you didn't have intent to be makabel Shabbos yet, extinguish it and light it again. Right? Kishegias man adlaka, light it again. Right? Beloy bracha. V'chol zeh b'ner shemiyachlos ha'kabbalah Shabbos. Aval shar nerish bebayis, you can go ahead and put it on early. There's no problem with that. So if you lit it once and then you're extinguishing it, according to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, you don't make a bracha already. Even though with the first time you did it, you were not intended to be makabel Shabbos. Let's go ahead to the Ktsois HaShulchan. Me'oid. You should be very makpid. Lahadlakas neiros lahadlak koidem shkia. You should light it before the shkia. Before shkia s'cham dan ba'oid Hashem zorech. Here's how it looks like.
Not typical.
No, I skipped that for now.
Page 7.
Page 7. Ma'oid tzarech li zoher ba'adlakas haneiros lahadlik, to go ahead and light them koidem shkia sachama. Dahaina ba'oid Hashem zorech b'rosh adloinus besodei, while the sun is still shining by the tops of the trees, or by the gagim hagvois be'ir, by the high, when the sun is setting over there. And then bring a little bit of extra kedusha onto the chayil. After the sun is not by the trees anymore, in about 4 minutes later, it's shkia amitis. V'azu tchila zman bein hashmoshes and a suffix b'tayra ve'isur kares chas v'shalom. V'chol zeh b'di'evidim lahidlik mekoidim, aber chil tzorich lahagdim v'lahadlik l'vachos kemo 20 minit koidim hashkia. You should really be doing it 20 minutes, and in Yerushalayim, in Eretz Yisrael, kemo 40 minut. In Eretz Yisrael, the minhag is 40 minutes before, and you're already lighting candles, right? And you're ready, l'chayra, accepting Shabbos. Right? Not to run around afterwards. Means that the Noshim Tzidkanias in Eretz Yisrael are lighting 40 minutes, and l'chayr, they're being makabel Shabbos then. Isha sheshachach pam achas lahadlik, if she forgot one time to light Shabbos candles, nagid shemosifin achakach lahadlik ner echad yoter kol yameha. For the rest of her life, she adds another. Vim shacha kama pamim, and doesn't matter how many times she forgot. It's a knas. She continues lighting. Every time she blows it, she lights another candle. She doesn't have to add. Says the Badei HaShulchan, I don't understand. Why do you have to go ahead and extinguish? You tell me a person lights too early, right? Or if they light without kavanah, you have to go ahead and extinguish. I have a different eitzah. Why do you have to extinguish? Just light another one, the covered Shabbos. Just light another one. Zok there, when it says in halacha, you have to extinguish because you didn't have another one to light. Look at the bottom of the page. Umistaver the kol zeh, 4 lines in the bottom. Right? He doesn't have another candle, so you have to extinguish. od ner echad samach legabol Shabbos be yotze kol hadayis. You don't have to extinguish. But what you could do is you could have another. So let's take stock of where we're holding right now. Let's summarize. Lechatchila, a woman can already light after Plag HaMincha. And this Erev Shabbos, Parshas Vayetze in Monsey, New York, the Plag is 3:30. After 3:30 already, a woman can light, be Makabel Shabbos. It's a Groise Inyan, Kedusha Shabbos, Gevaldik. Okay, what happens if she lit too early? And she made a bracha. What now? Does she extinguish it? Does she not extinguish it? Does she have Kedusha Shabbos? Does she not? We saw Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. We saw the Chafetz Chaim in Mishnah Berurah and the Yalkut Yosef. Majority of the opinions say, Lo asta shum davar. She did nothing. Gur nish getin. She herself can extinguish it. The Mata Ephraim said that's not true. Her Kabbalah Shabbos was a Kabbalah Shabbos, although it was too early, but she's already usher. Yes, it should be extinguished, but not her. Yes, it should be lit, but not her. There's a story on page 8 from Rabbi Yaakov Yisrael Fisher, the Rav, Zechrona Levracha, of Yerushalayim. Hava Uvda. It's in Halichas Even Yisrael. Halay Uvda, Hava Uvda Shetohu, she lit candles an hour before the Zman. That explains in 26 Sha'ar Vabaim Dakot Lefnei Ashkia, which was Lefnei before the Plag. They came to Reb Yisrael Yankov Fisher. I used to go to Reb Yisrael Yankov Fisher. I remember Nachman, it was next to Brisk. That's where, and they came to Reb Yisrael Yankov Fisher. Hayra Rabbeinu Shahabal Yechabeh, the husband should light it v'yadlik sheinis beloy bracha. Nobody makes a bracha, and she already made a bracha. But over here in the bottom says that if you go ahead and extinguish it, if she would extinguish it, then maybe it could even be a shtickle bracha levatola afterwards if she extinguished her lights. She was Makabel Shabbos. For her, it's not a bracha levatola. For her, she was Makabel Shabbos. But it wasn't nicker. It wasn't nicker. So for the household, and the husband makes a new adlaka, if you can, right? He said not to light a different candle. Interestingly enough, he said extinguish it and light it again. Not her. Means he was chayshish for the Mata Ephraim. He said not her. Let the husband do it on a bracha. That's what should happen. Let's talk for a few minutes about the Kedusha, and let's see what the Shloah Kodesh writes about Hadlakas Neris of Shabbos. Take a look at the last point for today, which is on page 9. Melamed Beis. Midas HaChasidus v'Kedusha Yisrael Elias Muchanim L'Tzoyrech HaShabbos. A person should be ready with Shabbos, all the difficult work they should do, Kvedus, before Chatzos. Mechatzois Eilach Ye'oisik Hakol B'Kedusha Shabbos Shekulei Shabbos. Now, instead of the cooking already, you should be more involved in Dahainu B'Yisairis Tshuva, Tikunei Maisa, Limud Torah. And he brings a siman from Chatzos Sinan, V'Simonech Loi Sasa Kol Melacha. Loi is 31. For 31 hours, a person should have Kedusha Shabbos upon him. Ki baschalat Kedushas mechatzos ve'elach. From the beginning of Chatzos. Now, Chatzos is halfway. A day is 24 hours. Chatzos is 6 shoys minus before. 24 and 6 is 30. 1 hour after Shabbos of Taisefes Shabbos is 31. Lamed Aleph. So therefore, but Taisefes Shamatzoi Shabbos, Shoyatzorch Lahaisav Mekoidish El Achoil, Hare Lamed Aleph Shois. V'simonech Kol Melachim Shloishim Ve'echad. Right? 31. Loi Lamed Aleph Shois. Simonech Chesed Kale. Kale is Aleph, Lamed 31. Ki Yom HaShabbos tzorich liyos kula b'chein b'chesed b'sholem b'ava rabba. Even the Rishoyim have a break when it comes on Shabbos Kodesh. Afilu Rishon shebegehenim shekvar nitnu simonim lo yisivaru eish b'chol moish v'seichem. Vuhu eish hamachloikis v'achimon v'akas. There should be no eish by, that's what the Zohar HaKadosh says. V'yenizo bezeh beziris godom mechatzos Shabbos, from chatzos, which is 31 hours. Lo yisivaru eish b'chol ma'ishvei seichem. Ruyig, a person should be ba'avo v'yelach lebeit hakneses b'simcha. V'yispalel ba'ahava u'bedvekas u'mekol sheken b'kedusha Shabbos avtzma yeh b'ahava rabba. He says, and he brings now what it says, that when a person comes home, shnei malachim amalav in a person, if they see ner dolok, shulchan aruch, mita matzas, it says the Gemara, a malach toiv benches him and says, this is the way it's supposed to be, and the malach ra is oina omein. Continues the Shloah Kodesh, Shnei Luchas Habris, Zog there, and it's brought down in the name of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Kishodem Bama Beis HaKnesses, Boim Imam Malachim, Mitzadzeh V'Shchina Al Kulam. That when a person comes to his house and he comes in B'Simcha, Hashchina Ro Ner Doilik V'Shulchan Aruch V'ish V'ishte B'Simcha, Shchina Imeres, Ze Misheli. That's my people. Ze Misheli. It's a minor mention. Yisrael Asher B'Cho Espa'er. V'im Lav Shchina Holeches. It leaves V'Yetzahara Ba V'Cheli of Imoi. And then he says, unfortunately, Ze Misheli. And a Ruach Tama comes to the house, Umesalik Hayud Meha'ish V'Hei Ma'isha V'Nikrem, and those two candles become Eish V'Eish. V'Machole, right? Machole Nikra Tuma, and the whole Shabbos loses its Kedusha. The attitude that a person has on Shabbos is the real Kedusha Shabbos. To be loy sevar eish, not to be makbid, not to be nervous, not to raise your voice, not to get upset. The whole idea of Neirei Shabbos is shalom bayis, to have ahava v'achva v'shalom reis, and to lift oneself up. And on that says the Eibishter mishelihu. And that's why Shabbos Kodesh, when a person finishes the week and his movil goes from the weekday into Shabbos, how Shabbos is niskabel decides if the week was a successful week or not a successful week. Because the week is nischaber, the chayil is mischaber to the kedusha. If the Shabbos is accepted with Kedusha, Ba'ava, V'Reyes, V'Shalom Bayis, then the Shechina Shara Beineim, and that's a guarantee. The Malach says, Amen, so shall it be, going weiter. And you bring bracha, and you continue that bracha. Chaz V'Shalom, if a person's attitude is negative, kaptonis, how come the table's not set? How come this? It happens, Amal. How come this wasn't? And a person is broigis, the Shechina has nothing to do with that household on Shabbos. The Shechina says, goodbye, I'm leaving, I don't want to stay here. And you know who takes up residence? The Yetzer Hara. And those two candles remain not a mokum of Ashras Shechina Chalila, it just becomes a place of Eish. So let's remember that the Kedusha Shabbos is totally in us. The attitude and the Kedusha and the brachas of our life is totally in us. When a person gets into the mindset and gets to a place where both the man and the wife go into Shabbos with the attitude of, we're going to make a peaceful Shabbos, we're going to make ruyig, we're going to be mekabel the Shechina. Indeed, those two candles and that light in the house is the aura of Kedusha of Shabbos Kodesh, and it brings tremendous bracha into a person's home. Kain Yehi Ratzon.